In this part 2, we're going to go over track organization and console software integration. So this is basically what we're going to do is we're going to now go over to Pro Tools, and we're going to integrate the setup here. So what I have is a mix here, which is about 20 tracks or so, and I've cleared out all the plugins. I have a couple sends for the vocal, and right now those effects that are there are just muted. I wanted to monitor the CPU usage, so I'm going to have that displayed up here. I think relatively there's not a lot on here. I've basically taken everything off the mix bus. There's an L2 here, and that's just kind of keeping us from clipping for the video recording, so we won't be coming anywhere near that. But in preparation for the session, what I want to do is I want to set this up so that when I'm employing the console 1, I have like some mono and stereo tracks. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to basically reset all of my channels here. And I'm just going to, so my mono tracks are just going to be pan center for the time being. And my stereo tracks panned hard left and right, and I'll kind of explain that. And so now I have each of the individual tracks set up here, and I'm going to pick an insert. Now, I don't see that there's any particular need to have this be the first insert or the last insert, so I'm going to kind of go in between, and if we need to keep everything before that, fine. If we need to put stuff after it, fine. Okay, and I don't think we're going to get into that in terms of the mixing here, but I wanted to set this up. Now, when you actually look at the tracks, you see that there are track names going along here, and what's cool is that this is going to automatically map out. So if I now open up a plugin here, what I've done is I've integrated the console 1 directly into this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open these up as, like in this case, I'm actually going to open up I'm going to actually just open up everything as mono to stereo, and this will allow us to use the pan pot within. So when I first do this, what it's doing is it's sort of making its connection to the software. And if I click on the Show Knobs button here, this is going to give me like a really small display of the settings that are going on in the larger work surface. So now here, if I have track 1, so I could see my track 1 here, I can see that I have set up with the SSL E-Series, and now I can see the software kind of function and open up. So I can make this display, I can drag it out to be as big or whatever size that I want to on the display. So primarily when you're working, you're going to want to see it, probably close to full screen. I think the way that I want to function with this here is to kind of set up the whole mix and just kind of work with it so that we can stumble through some issues if we come across any, and kind of work our way with it. So one thing that I have to do or have to remember here is the view button in the very top left. So I'll just show you where that is right here. When you click on that view button, it puts the console 1 software on the top surface. So even if you go about switching to a different application here, it won't switch off of that. It'll still remain in the background. So this keeps the software up on the top regardless of what it is that you're doing. Now, when I actually do settings, plugin settings on the work surface or on the console 1 itself, they will be reflected in this plugin, and I can display this or not display this. I can decide whether I want to hide the knobs. It doesn't really matter. I can solo safe any of these, which is great for effects returns and things like that. But primarily what I want to do here is I now want to kind of set some of these guys up. So I have a kick, I have a snare. So because I'm making it mono stereo, I'm now integrating the pan control here. So now what's happening is, and there's probably a better way for me to do this. I'm kind of doing it one at a time, because it's going to map out the channels one at a time as I create them. And then I can go about the process of making it. So really what I want to do here is I want to set up and use the console 1 as my mix, right? To set everything up so that this is what I am just kind of using for everything here. And so you'll notice that because these plugins are mono to stereo, it's turning on any mono tracks that I have into stereo tracks. And that's fine because the pan control will exist underneath, and then we'll just kind of play this out on this end. And this way we can actually get into the full process of mixing. and integrating everything. So let's see. We've got another stereo track. We've got a mono track here. Piano. Exciting stuff, right? And let's see. Got a B3. I stripped this down. There was actually a lot more stuff in the production, and I kind of stripped it down to some of the basic elements. We'll kind of see what happens as we go along here. I got the lead vocal. And then I think for the sake of, I don't have a delay set up, so I'm just going to kind of move this to the side. But for the sake of just kind of setting this up, what I want to do here is I have a little bit of a doubler here, and I'm going to put my solo safe on to that particular track. And that calls us up to track 22. So our vocal is going to be on the next layer, since there's 20 of the layers in there. And I'm going to solo safe here. So this is kind of giving me like a way of integrating. So this whole idea of working with this is that as I am, now working through the system and integrating everything on the console one side of things, I kind of pretty much want to stay here in terms of the layout. So I can actually switch between my individual tracks, and you could see the track names switching as I go across. And actually what I want to do here, I'm going to start with track 21, which is the lead vocal. And the first thing I'm going to do is mute it. So if you look down here, that's going to set up. So really, if I were to take you to the work surface top, all I'm really doing here is I'm hitting the track number buttons up top here to select a track. I got a page up and down button, which gets me to the different pages. And then there's a solo mute volume, which takes over the fader control, and then a pan balance control. Okay, so this is all kind of lower right hand activity here. And what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to bring these channels in one at a time and kind of work with them from this perspective. So in using this, the cool part, or one of the cool parts about this, is that if I maintain all of these levels, if I don't have the work surface, then what happens is the parameters and settings will still function within the window here, right? This plugin window. So in other words, the functions and settings are still stored with the save of the Pro Tools session or Logic session or whatever application that you're using. And that makes it really cool, because if you don't happen to have the hardware, or you run off with your laptop to somebody else's place to lay in some parts or whatever, and you open up the session on your computer, you're not losing all the settings and everything that you've had in your setup. It's all maintained. And then, then it's a question of, then you could still make adjustments here, and all the settings lay out here. And then it's just really more a matter of, how easy it is, what the visuals are in terms of seeing it. And then you can kind of manage that type of stuff. So, getting back to this, I'm going to go back to here. So this is now track 20. And I'm going to kind of go one by one and just kind of manage. Now, there probably is a shortcut here, way of just sort of globally muting everything. Or the other option is, of course, you can solo one thing, but I don't want to go across and solo. I want to kind of mute or unmute tracks one at a time and go through a process of working much the way I would, if I were, kind of setting up a session, right? So, and that's the basic idea. So what I'm going to do here, going back to this, I think I can actually click here and start. So let's see if this, okay, cool. All right. So I got a bass sound, and then I can switch over, unmute. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and kind of start a little bit lower here on the bass. So these are just raw tracks, right? And now I'm going to go over here, unmute the snare. And, I can actually see the, here, like if I feel, for example, like I want more gain, I can actually just bring my input gain up. So I can see, you know, my meter over here, you know, showing my overall levels. I can see them reflected here. And let's kind of move on to the next section. So now we're into the overheads. So here, you know, in the lower right, you can see the kind of gain that I'm setting up. So I'm actually working on a knob, on a rotary knob. What's interesting is that it sort of has a velocity sensitivity. So if I turn it very slowly, then the numbers will change in a short order. But if I move it radically, then they will change very rapidly. So there's sort of it's an interesting kind of function here where it's sort of a velocity sensitivity. And there also is a fine adjust button. So if I actually go here just to the Console 1 software, just to kind of give you a little bit of an idea, or to the work surface, if I do the fine adjust button in any knob that I move, it'll kind of go to a finer setting of what I'm adjusting. So really, in terms of my functioning, I've got one hand that's kind of up here switching between the tracks. I'm unmuting, I'm controlling the gain, and then right now, as we get into the next series of tracks, I can solo and I can work with my pan balances. And I adjusted some of the input gains. So I found this in booting it up to actually be really pretty straightforward. Like I seem to intuitively sort of pick up the way that this was working pretty quickly. So, you know, from that perspective, so far I've been really happy with the way the setup is. So now I'm just kind of listening. The hi-hat kind of shows up a little bit sort of central. So here, this is my pan position here. It doesn't really, it's sort of a little bit center, you know, in the mix. And then from here, I'm going to skip over to track 8. And this is sort of a center mic that is out in front of the kit. I didn't do the recording here, so. So this is no processing. This is just exactly as you see it. And here I can switch back and also solo up. So if you look here on the screen display, you could see here that, you know, these tracks are solo, the rest of them are muted. These are flashing M. So what's saying here is that it's like, okay, when I unsolo, these other tracks are going to stay muted, but those ones that are flashing are going to open up. So I had to figure out how much of this I want to in here, and then and so I'm switching very quickly because I know I can read the track names here real quick, and then it's easy for me to kind of make some adjustments. So let me just take this guy out of solo, and then I'm going to go back to track 1. And so what I'm really doing here is I'm just kind of following track numbers. Can I either move this shaker over to the left where the hi-hat is, or move it a little bit over to the right. So you can kind of follow the pan movement over here if you follow the circle. And you can see that reflected in the stereo output metering. And let's see if I go back to overheads, that's channel 4. And all right, so now even though I'm in the console software, you could see looking up at the top here on the left, I'm in Pro Tools. So I'm actively in Pro Tools, and this is just sitting over the top of it. And if I kind of run all the way back to the beginning, so it's kind of perfect timing here, and I switch over to track 12, I can bring up the cymbal swell, which begins the song. And let me kind of get that balance. Might need to do some editing there, which we're not going to do on the Console 1 software, but so I'm going to pan these guys hard left and right from each other. And so I'm just going to kind of match. I can switch over the gain here. So I'm checking out as I'm just kind of matching the two gains. And I believe there also is a grouping system in here. So I can just kind of bring that shaker down a little bit. Finding a nice place for that R&B guitar, and then also kind of waiting for some parts to come along. I also have some keyboards coming up here, so there's the ARP guitar. And that's already stereo kind of on its own. This actually sounds a little imbalanced, so I'm going to kind of... So in a stereo channel, if I have a stereo channel feeding into this pan now becomes a balance control. So I can kind of balance out the left-right of this. Okay, so you can see here pretty quickly I'm able to get up like a good basic mix. So now I've switched over my console to channel 21 so I can open up the lead vocal.
Slow down, baby, take a moment and breathe. I can't hear what you say.
I'm going to bring a little bit of gain up in here and
stop for a minute. Come sit there with me.
At the input stage.
I can see you're afraid, and I don't know what to tell you. You're scared at my failure, and so you're leaving here before it goes wrong. Don't you know you can't keep running from where you belong?
And now I'm gonna toggle back to my beginning tracks. Add a little more bass.
You again. Oh yeah. And I'll find you. You again. No river to run or mountain to
Let's go over to that tambourine and pull that back a little bit.
You'll find no reply. Baby, we're far from the end. So come on, baby, let me help you believe in you and me. Come on, man. Yeah, 'cause I will stay here for as long as you need. Don't keep pushing away, 'cause the stories they tell you are just meant to scare you from being here with me where you belong. Tell me what would I do if robbed of your smile? So if you now tell me.
This also sounds a little bit on the left heavy, or right heavy side. I guess I can see that reflected in the input gain over here.
Let goodbye be a final reply. Baby, we're far from the end. If you say you're leaving, no, I'll be following. And I'll find you.
All right, so now what I've done is I've basically just set up a good, rough mix. And for someone who's hardly had any experience on this, so literally I got this, I can honestly say I've spent less than 2 hours on this in terms of just figuring it out and kind of going through what it does and how it's set up. So from that place, in terms of like, and that is not including installing the software and kind of getting that up and running, and basically this is just sort of intuitively picking it up and starting to work with it. I could see already that there is a very quick and easy workflow with the work surface. The positioning of the knobs, just the layout, switching between the tracks, setting some basic levels and panning. I'm able to kind of quickly go through the setup and kind of match things. Now, you don't have to do that. You can still go with your normal, or if you have a work surface working, create your faders. And you probably still will do your automation here, although you can automate any of the console 1 parameters as well. So that's also an option. But it gives you the ability to kind of, just intuitively kind of, quickly switch around. Like, so if you're following just the graphics, you could see I'm like switching from one thing to another, making some quick changes. And the whole idea of having something like this is exactly that there's an ease or a flow to the use. So to me, so far, I think what I've found here is that this is very, very well laid out. And so from a good starter place, I think, let's kind of move right into mixing and dig into some of the other stuff that's going on here. So, so let's move on to part 3. and that'll just kind of give you an idea, at least, of what the track organization and console software integration is. You can, if it will sort of designate the track numbers based on the order you assign the plugins, and you can reorder them. Now, I'm not going to get into a lot of those types of things, which are really digging into the console one mechanics itself. Those are things that if you were to purchase it, you would get on the manual. I've done it. It's not difficult at all. Everything really seems, the way it's laid out, the labeling and everything is very self-explanatory. So I've found this to kind of flow very, very well and very simply just from the straight off. And so now let's get into, some of adding some processing, some equalization, compression, and all of those sorts of things. And then we'll just kind of move from there right into the next phase of this, part 3.